October 7, 2023, history took an unexpected turn as Palestinian militant groups led by Hamas launched a daring invasion and offensive against Israel from the Gaza Strip. Breaking through the Gaza-Israel barrier, they stormed into Israeli territory, catching the world by surprise. This marked the first direct conflict within Israel's borders since the 1948 Arab-Israeli War and led to Israel formally declaring war for the first time since the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Background. Beginning around the end of the 19th century, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has existed. The Partition Plan, also known as Resolution 181, was adopted by the UN in 1947 and aimed to create separate Arab and Jewish states inside the British Mandate of Palestine. The State of Israel was established on May 14, 1948, which precipitated the First Arab-Israeli War. Israel won the battle in 1949, but 750,000 Palestinians were forced to flee their homes, and the area was partitioned into the State of Israel, the West Bank, west of the Jordan River, and the Gaza Strip. Tensions in the region increased during the ensuing years, particularly between Israel and Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. Egypt, Jordan, and Syria signed agreements on mutual defense after the 1956 Suez Crisis and Israel's invasion of the Sinai Peninsula in preparation for a potential Israeli force deployment. Following a series of moves by Egyptian President Abdel Gamal Nasser, Israel launched a preemptive strike against Syrian and Egyptian air defenses in June 1967, igniting the Six-Day War. Following the conflict, Israel seized control of the Golan Heights from Syria, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and the Sinai Peninsula and Gaza Strip from Egypt. 6 years later, in what is known as the Yom Kippur War or the October War, Egypt and Syria attacked Israel on two fronts in an attempt to reclaim lost territory. Although neither Egypt nor Syria gained much from the conflict, neither did Israel or Syria. Egyptian President Anwar al-Sadat hailed the conflict as a success for Egypt because it allowed Egypt and Syria to negotiate over previously ceded territory. Representatives from Egypt and Israel finally signed the Camp David Accords, a peace accord that put an end to the 30-year struggle between the two countries in 1979 after a number of ceasefires and peace talks. The Camp David Accords aimed to strengthen Israel-Nepal relations but failed to address Palestinian self-determination and self-government. The First Intifada in 1987 led to Palestinians rebelling against Israeli authorities. The 1993 Oslo I Accords established a foundation for Palestinian self-governance in the West Bank and Gaza, allowing mutual recognition between Israel and the Palestinian Authority. The Oslo II Accords expanded on the original accord by requiring Israel to withdraw from 6 cities and 450 communities in the West Bank. The Second Intifada began in 2000 and lasted until 2005, sparked by Palestinian complaints about Israel's control over the West Bank and a stalled peace process. In response, the Israeli government authorized the construction of a wall enclosing the West Bank in 2002, defying international law. In 2006, Hamas won the 2006 parliamentary elections, giving Hamas authority over the Gaza Strip. The Israeli military and Hamas engaged in a military conflict in the summer of 2014 as a result of hostilities in the Palestinian territories. Hamas launched approximately 3,000 rockets at Israel, and Israel responded by launching a major attack in Gaza. The worst period of violence since 2014 began when fighting broke out between Hamas and the IDF again in May 2018. Prior to establishing a ceasefire, Gaza terrorists launched more than 100 rockets into Israel. Israel retaliated by conducting airstrikes on more than 50 targets in Gaza during the 24-hour flare-up. The Trump administration prioritized an agreement between Israel and the Palestinians in its foreign policy. In 2018, the Trump administration reversed a long-standing U.S. policy, cutting off financing to the UN Relief and Works Agency and moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. In August and September 2020, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain restored diplomatic ties with Israel, becoming the third and fourth nations in the region to do so. The Abraham Accords, which occurred over 18 months after the U.S. hosted discussions on Middle Eastern peace in Warsaw, Poland, were rejected by Hamas and Fatah's Mahmoud Abbas. An Israeli court ordered the eviction of many Palestinian families from Sheikh Jarrah, an area of East Jerusalem, by May 2021 and the transfer of their land to Jewish people in October 2020. A number of Palestinian families from Sheikh Jarrah appealed the court's decision in February 2021, which sparked demonstrations against the appeal hearings, the ongoing legal dispute over land ownership, and the eviction of Palestinians from their homes in Jerusalem. Late in April 2021, Palestinians started protesting the impending evictions in the streets of Jerusalem, and Sheikh Jarrah's residents and other activists started holding nightly sit-ins. After a judge decided in favor of the evictions in early May, the protests grew and Israeli police used force to repress the protesters. At the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Jerusalem, violence broke out on May 7 after weeks of daily protests and rising tensions between protesters, Israeli settlers, and police during the month of Ramadan. Israeli police used stun grenades, rubber bullets, and water cannons in their altercation with protesters, leaving hundreds of Palestinians hurt. As a result of the fighting in Jerusalem's Old City, tensions in East Jerusalem rose, which was exacerbated by Jerusalem Day celebrations. Following 3 days of nonstop fighting in Jerusalem and the deployment of deadly and non-lethal force by Israeli police, Hamas, the terrorist organization in control of Gaza, and other Palestinian militant organizations, fired hundreds of rockets into Israeli territory on May 10. In retaliation, Israel attacked locations in Gaza with artillery fire and airstrikes, some of which resulted in the deaths of over 20 Palestinians. Israel allegedly expanded its aerial campaign and struck non-military infrastructure such as residential buildings, media centers, refugee and healthcare facilities, as well as Hamas, other militants, such as those from the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and their infrastructure, including tunnels and rocket launchers. Impact of wars. Israel's wars have had a profound impact on nations in the Middle East and beyond. These conflicts have shaped the region's political, social, and economic landscape for decades. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, in particular, has left a lasting imprint. Palestinian territories. The ongoing conflict has resulted in the displacement of Palestinian populations, leading to a humanitarian crisis. It has also hindered economic development and political stability in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Arab nations. Israel's wars have strained relations with neighboring Arab countries. These conflicts have influenced regional politics, military spending, and diplomatic efforts. The peace treaties with Egypt and Jordan, born out of these conflicts, have had a stabilizing effect in the region. Refugees. The creation of Israel in 1948 led to a significant Palestinian refugee crisis, impacting neighboring countries that host these displaced populations. The refugee issue remains a key sticking point in peace negotiations. Global diplomacy. Israel's wars have had ramifications in international diplomacy. The United States' strong support for Israel has influenced its relations with other nations in the Middle East, contributing to a complex geopolitical landscape. Regional stability. The Israeli-Arab conflicts have played a role in broader regional instability, with implications for neighboring countries and global security. In summary, Israel's wars have left a complex legacy, characterized by ongoing regional tensions, political complexities, humanitarian challenges, and efforts to achieve peace. The impact of these conflicts continues to evolve, affecting nations in the Middle East and reverberating on the global stage.